Well, welcome everyone. First of all, I am going to make a quick presentation about Adevinta, and later I will leave you with the thing that you want. And well, Adevinta, as you can see there, is a company that is located in different countries and different continents around the world, and it has many and different marketplaces. In Europe, Adevinta is located, for example, here in Spain, in Germany, in Italy, in Ireland, in Netherlands, and as you can see, again, it owns many marketplaces. And here in Spain, Adevinta owns marketplaces like Fotocasa, Habitaclia, InfoJobs, Cochesnet, Motosnet, marketplaces that I hope you all are using every day. So for sure you know them. And in numbers, Adevinta has a really quite big numbers, as you can see. We have like 17 millions of users per month and more than 50,000 new ads per day. And well, you can see also the revenues, and the numbers are quite big. We don't complain. And about people working here in Adevinta, we have people working from many countries and nationalities, and also you can find here people really, really young, because we want to keep growing, and for that you need to have junior tech talent. And quickly, a little bit introduction about me. I am Gustavo Martin, and I've been working as a backend and front-end developer, full stack architect for many years. But a few years ago, I moved from backend and front-end to the big data field, and now I am a data platform engineer here in Adevinta, and I am in a team implementing a data platform. And well, you can find the links where you can reach me if you want. And now I wanted to say that Adevinta today has the fortune, or we are lucky for having a meetup with someone that doesn't need a presentation. And I am also really, really lucky for being able to introduce a person, someone that I think, or I consider a leader and inspiration to me. And this meetup, and we are having also 3 days workshop here in Adevinta about domain-driven design. And this meetup and the workshop, it would have been impossible without Alex Moleiro. He is now in Berlin, in Germany, because as you saw, we have different marketplaces, and he is busy there. And that's the reason I am here. And without Alejandro, this meetup and the workshop, the 3 days workshop that we are having also, it started on Monday. It will finish tomorrow, right? If I am not wrong. This meetup and this workshop, it would have been impossible without him. And now here I have a brief summary about you, a short biography that I want to read, but really quickly. And it says, I found this biography in internet. It has more than 25 years. He has more than 25 years of experience in software design, development, and architecture. Really, really good 25 years that you are sharing with us now. And he is a thought leader in simplifying software design and implementation using innovative methods. Of course, we all know about that already. And he has been programming with object-oriented languages since the 1980s. You learn a lot, and you have shared all your knowledge with us, and I believe we are all here really thankful for that. And so really, myself, I really thank you for that. Talking about biography, I found this biography in internet. You can find his biography also on internet, but you can find also his biography in the books that I hope you all have, and I guess you all have all the books that you have written, because they are really quite interesting. For example, in my case, I read your book a few years ago when I was a backend developer. I read the book called Implementing Domain-Driven Design. And in that very moment, I was a backend engineer. But now I am a data engineer, a machine learning engineer, all of these cool things, artificial intelligence, all of these cool things. But I wanted to say that the things that I learned reading your book, I am applying now the same things in the new field where I am. So your teachings are highly relevant in the past, in the present, and in the future. So, and just, I am going to finish with this. I want to thank you for being here with us. And I also want to thank you all for coming here to this meetup and sharing this incredible opportunity here in Adevinta of sharing our time with you. So thank you very much, and now you are the boss.
Testing. I won't need another introduction for 25 years. And thank you, Gustavo, you're so kind. Actually, I'm glad he found, pardon me, the old bio, because it makes me sound younger. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you tonight about innovation impacts. And this has to do with how can we be successful in business, social, and technical investments. And I think I'm going to show an interesting viewpoint of architecture, probably at least 2/3 of the architecture that maybe most people never really consider, especially software developers. And I think it's quite important. So what is the newest new digital stuff out there, right? It's, I would say we would have to agree that it's quite disruptive. The innovators are challenging the status quo. The traditional industry answers are being replaced. The product portfolios that are currently being developed, being innovated around are very complex, and they're moving fast. And you would just have to say they're digital back to front, right? So front to back, back to front, whatever. It's a very challenging industry to be in right now. And but that's good. It's good that more is demanded of us today than it was yesterday and the years before. So let me just give you an example, digital banking. Actually, I was just working at a bank the other day up in the Netherlands. I gave a presentation and taught a little workshop up there. 𝐈𝐦𝐻 is the name of the bank. And 𝐈𝐦𝐻, I think, is in pretty good shape. They're actually closing branches. That may not sound good, but for a digital bank, that's good, right? When people are using your bank online more than they're going to the properties of former branches, that's really excellent. Think of the cost cutting that is afforded the bank right now. But why is that happening? Why is disruption in the banking industry happening? Do you think it has to do with the age of the people who are now banking, putting money in banks? I think so. If I think about my parents, I lost both of them in the past year and a half. They both died, but I think about them. They weren't completely separated from technology. My father especially was an engineer, and he really loved to tinker with the computer. But as he got older, my message to him was, Dad, when they start asking you questions about your bank account, hang up on them, right? It's these, what do you call it? Fraudulent callers who are trying to, steal from older people. And, the thing is, okay, that's an age where, my father was 87 when he died about a year ago. That's pretty old to understand digital banking. He still would drive up to a teller machine, an ATM, and that was his way of getting money. That was sort of the advanced technology that he had command over. Myself personally, I don't use a digital bank. I guess JP Morgan Chase, biggest bank in the world, they got a lot of digital stuff going on, but I don't consider myself a digital banker. I think that people around me, our business and so forth, are being run quite a bit with digital banking. So that's good. But if I had to go get money or do something, first of all, I would ask Nicole to do it. Secondly, if I remembered the PIN on my cash card, I would go to the teller machine like my dad and get money out. But now, completely different from that is my son. My son is 22 years old. And all that I can say is that at the age, when I was 22 years old, I was not nearly as smart as he is. The information that he has had available to him within even, he started reading books at the age of 2, which is amazing, but still, that any kid can learn to do that. But once he discovered the internet, right, this was a game changer for him. He grew up on SesameStreet.com. You must all know Sesame Street, right? He grew up on SesameStreet.com. It wasn't because that's what we coaxed him to do. It's because he was drawn to it. He wanted to do that. I was telling class yesterday that I was at, I think it was a Target store. Do you know what Target is? It's a big sort of not great department store, but okay, you can get normal things there. And I was there to buy something else. Don't remember what it was. I was going through the line to pay. And as I'm checking out, I look down and I see one of my favorite childhood things, Hot Wheels, right? There were some Hot Wheels cars in the little, the little cardboard thing with the plastic, Hot Wheels, right? And I just say, wow, this is so cool. 88 cents, less than $1, right? For each Hot Wheels car. I'm buying 2 cars for my son just to see how he likes them. So I do that, and I take them home, and I'm like, Tristan, I got a surprise for you. And I hand him the boxes of cars. Tell me what the first thing that he did after I handed him the cars in the little boxes. Any idea? He turned it. Okay, that's a good one. He turned it to the back and he said, HotWheels.com. He went and got on his computer and went to HotWheels.com. I was like, I didn't see him for another year. You know, but here's the thing, right? The kids around us, and probably most of you, have grown up completely differently than I did. Honestly, I didn't touch a computer until I was about 20 years old. That just, maybe I did, I don't remember, unless you count Pong, the little TV game as a computer. Maybe that's a computer. But so I had a computer when I was in my mid-teens, I guess, from that standpoint. But I didn't really use a computer until later in my teen years, at least, maybe earliest, maybe 20 years old, where I really used a computer. Kevin, my friend over here, Kevin, was writing games in C++ when he was 12. Okay, you get the idea. Things are different today. The kids are different. They don't know what a telephone is that hangs on a wall, let alone, Dad, you really used to dial those things around, it's not even a matter of push button. That's like, okay, I can understand the push button, but how did that even work? So we're around kids that will never understand the analog devices that I grew up with, and maybe a lot of you had too. At least you remember from your younger years that those existed. So, is it any wonder that digital banking is growing like crazy, and even traditional brick and mortar banks, I guess you would call them, or vault-based banks, are, a lot of them are struggling to try to keep up. And it could be that a lot of these older banks, and I'm not going to call out any given one, but they could literally be dying and not have any idea that they are. They think they're in good shape, but they're dwindling. Maybe they think they just had a bad year, but they don't realize that Nubank, or N26 or Monzo or one of these banks is just taking over. And it might take them another 5 years to realize, oh, this is not just a financial trend situation. This is business, right? We're losing our business. So there's an important message in this. Why is everything digital disrupting right now? Again, it's the age of the people who are using the systems these days. They get it. They just simply get the reason. I personally, for a lot of, practical kinds of technology uses, you would think that, I'm this sort of techno person who just has technology surrounding. I really don't like it that much. I've got a smartphone and I love to program computers and I love working in it, but I don't have the most modern stuff, that there is to have. But a lot of these kids, they just, it's like everything around them, they're just surrounded with digital devices and capabilities. So it's just, digital is just going to continue to disrupt. This is what I see, okay? As a person who did not grow up in, in an advanced technological era, but, the IBM PC happened when I was 20 years old. That's when the IBM PC happened. I was 20 years old. So from my viewpoint, what I see is that there are three major problems with the software development industry as most of us know it. One is business architecture is sort of ignored by technology people. Social architecture between the business and technology people is, I would say, probably most times non-existent. You have unique and advanced companies like 𝐈𝐬𝐻𝐽𝐜 here, and you can tell that they are into, they have 21 new juniors, right? So they're into that sort of social, let's bring up the kids, and but we still value our senior people, and our senior people are going to help bring up the kids. And but I'm going to just tell you that it is not like that by and large. Does anyone else experience that in there? You don't even have to, maybe just shake your head if you don't want to raise your hand, but you probably see that our industry needs a lot of help in the social architecture aspects. Part of that is just appreciating what young people know, what they understand about digital, and bringing them into a digital environment where they can prosper, where they can do, learn and do the things that we used to do really quickly, right? I mean, I don't know. I can remember when I could write 1,000 lines of code in a few hours, and I'm not joking, and it wasn't bad code, and it was in C or C++, right? But I'll tell you, I don't have the opportunity to do that these days very often, to just sit down and like code, because I'm being interrupted all the time with important business things, and it's hard to be a technologist sometimes. And I'm meeting with clients and things like that. So that's in general a challenge. We really aren't taking care of the social architecture within the software industry. And then you have to ask yourself, how are we doing with the technical part, the technology part of architecture, technical architecture? Are we really doing well with that? I have to say, some of these tools are extremely useful, and I keep going back to the 2K tools, the Kafka and the Kubernetes tools, right? And there was a point in time where those two tools eclipsed the industry, right? Like people, they didn't want to know anything except how to, write a YAML file for Kubernetes, right? Or Docker and then Kubernetes. Like, it was just captivating everyone's attention. Okay, cool. That's a great tool to use. It's a great tool to have. So is Kafka, but those don't solve the business problems, right? They solve technical problems. How are we doing in technical architecture with regard to solving business problems? Do we see architecture in a technical sense as something that has a purpose beyond, adding glitter to our CVs, right? And I think that has a lot to do with how we as engineers, architects, programmers, whatever you want to call us, how we value ourselves, right? There was a point in time where I was actually, I don't remember where it was, maybe I had 17, 18 years of experience, and I sort of felt like, okay, am I stuck in C++ now? Or like, I really liked Smalltalk, but Smalltalk had sort of died, and now everything was C++, and Java was coming on the scenes, and I didn't really know if I was going to get a chance to learn Java. And there is that sort of panic mode, right? Do you ever get in those panic modes where it's like, wait a minute, Kubernetes is passing me by. I may never learn it. If I don't learn it, where am I going to be, like in the cloud? Will I even be able to work in the cloud because I don't know Kubernetes? And Kafka, well, you know what? Frankly, I'm okay with using Kafka through Apache Camel. Is anybody else like that? Like, I don't know. Am I silly because I'm not like coding right to the Kafka API? Is that weird? I don't know. It's a tool, and I need to publish messages and mostly events. But is it really something that, like, if I don't know that API cold, I'm in trouble. Is it true? Well, let me tell you, here I am standing here. And so far, it hasn't hurt me. Now, there are probably some people that say it should have, right? It should have hurt you. But I don't know. Having an abstraction above, Alish, how are you? Having an abstraction above Kafka is okay with me, right? And if I can find a tool that generates, like a Kubernetes pod definition, cool. Actually, our open source platform does that for you automatically. If you check a box, it'll generate the configuration for a pod for your microservice, right? I didn't write it. I paid someone to write it for me, right? But that's okay. Like, it's there. If I needed to learn it, I could, but so far it hasn't hurt me. But let me ask you now, if two users are attempting to modify the same object at the same time, and one succeeds and the other fails because optimistic concurrency causes a failure to the second user, what happens there? What's your answer to that? Is that tell the user, try again later? I will guarantee you, to the business, that's the wrong answer. But to the business, that's by and large what they see. If you want to take a trip from Barcelona to London, England, what do you need? You need an airplane ride. You need a hotel room, let's say, just to make it easy. And you want to rent a car. So you go to some booking site and you book a flight. You tell them you want this package deal. I want a flight, I want a hotel. You choose the best for me. I'm looking for price and quality, and I need an automobile a vehicle to rent for 4 days while I'm there. The flight gets booked, the hotel gets booked, and then the travel booking company comes back to you and says, we've canceled your trip because your rental car is not available. But you know what? You could say that's ridiculous. Why would anybody in the travel business know that they should just go ahead and book the flight and book the hotel, and then what? Tell them you can't rent a car? No. You give them three options. You go back to the user and the customer, and you say, your flight is booked, your hotel is booked. Currently, there are no, believe it or not, no rental vehicles available in London, England. But because your trip is still 3 weeks away, we're going to continue to look for vehicles for you. And as soon as one becomes a bit available, according to the specification that you asked for, we will book it. Would you like to continue with keeping your reservation as it is, and we will book the car for you when it becomes available? And even if the car doesn't become available, would you like to go ahead and book and maybe think about taking ride sharing when you're in London, or a taxi instead? Or would you like to cancel your trip? Would you like to cancel these bookings that we already have? That's actually the right answer. That's exactly what Amazon does when you order 3 books and 2 of those books are 2 of the books are available, 1 is out of stock. They don't just roll it back. They don't roll back the transaction and send you an email that says, we canceled your order because one of the books isn't available. One of the biggest rules of Jeff Bezos, and he's kind of maybe a little bit out of the picture now, but one of the big rules of Amazon overall is never lose money, never lose a sale. And you take that trip away from the bookings from the traveler who's no longer a traveler, because you're not going to book the trip for them. That's a bad choice. You're losing money, and it is a technical decision. It's not a business decision. So, I could go on with example after example. These are fresh in mind because I used them in class today. So I apologize for boring the people who already heard this. But technical architecture, how are we doing with technical architecture in general? What do you think? What do you see in your companies? I know you don't want to admit that you just designed a this wasn't available, so we're rolling back the transaction and telling the user to try again later, right? But actually, what is the correct answer to that? You turn that into a business process, but how are you able to actually do that? It's because you understand business architecture and you understand social architecture, and you're looking for the best technical architecture choice to make. That can simply mean to choose the architectural mechanisms that are adequate. They're used for the purpose. Now, if you're making an architectural decision, like writing up an ADR, and you say, well, we're going to use Kafka because we need to scale to 1 million messages per second, over these partitions, these, whatever, 49 partitions. We have 49 partitions so that we can scale our messaging to 1 million per second. And you were to have a conversation with the business, meaning that you understand social architecture and business architecture. And the feedback that you get is, well, actually, if we had about 250 messages per second, that would do us for the next 3 years. Do you know how hard it is to maintain a 49 partition, Kafka cluster? You better just go set that up on Kinesis actually, or something like okay, Confluent wouldn't be happy with me saying that, but go pay someone to do that for you, like I did to write the Kubernetes pod configuration, because you're going to suffer from that, and the business is going to suffer. And you know what? When it comes right down to it, you don't even deserve to get a congratulations if you get it to work, because you simply didn't need it. You just didn't need it. Okay, so now everybody just wants to get up and have beer, and they're like, okay, Vaughn, well, you really just crushed us there. But it is the truth, right? It is what we see in our industry. Okay, so what is business architecture anyway? It's multidisciplinary. There are many things involved in business architecture. There's the vision of how the business is not only going to survive, but actually make money and grow, hopefully exponentially, right? They're going to be a unicorn in 4 years. So there has to be strategy, and the strategy is going to require innovation. And innovation is going to require a lot of experimentation. Notice that communication has to occur at the business architecture level. And it's not communication as in one directional, unidirectional communication. It's multi-directional communication. Call it dialogue. And this is not dialogue like D-I-A-L-O-G as in dialogue box. This is dialogue as in IALOGUE, as in discussion, open discussion, peer-to-peer discussion, right? Multi-peer discussion. This is for learning. This is so that you can learn what the business needs. What are the business capabilities that the business needs to perform to be successful? Can you name 10 business capabilities in the company that you work for that are absolutely required right now for that business to succeed? Can you name 10 of them? Can you name 5? Can you name the business capability that you're currently working on? I mean, I'm not joking. Can you? You don't have to answer to me. You answer to yourself. Products, huh? Oh, I thought I heard someone. Products. We are now developing products. Okay. If you're not developing products, you're working on projects, and working on projects is sort of like projects never end, products ship, right? So products have a definite life cycle. Products have packaging. Products have, you can talk about products, you can market products, you can sell products, even if the product that you're producing is only used within your own enterprise. Why should it actually be a product and not just a project? What if you got disrupted by an external product company? Maybe they provide, not just something that you can license and install in your enterprise, but they have turnkey, managed service application, and all you have to do is pay them $250 a month for the 10 people who are going to use this, and it's yours, right? Why should I be told, shown a stack trace and told try again later, when I can get a nice clean product that actually has thinking, in it? It's backed by real experimentation and business goals that are based on the capabilities and the vision and the strategy that the business has. So all of this has to be driven by value streams that actually have real value. Okay, so we're looking after the business at this case. Now, if you're working with legacy, you have to remember that this is what you're working with, right? It's messy, but it's money. And you can't break the money. So it's sort of like the Hippocratic Oath for doctors. If, first do no harm, right? You don't want to, the first thing you're going to do is stabilize the patient, make the patient comfortable, try to make them healthy, but you're not going to do anything that could kill them or make them sicker at a minimum. So you don't want to break the money. Social architecture. I have 2 choices for you, door number 1 and door number 2. Have you ever seen a game show like that? Choose between door number 1 and door number 2. Which do you choose? You see a difference? I'm going to say if you work behind door number 1. This is where you may have 2 to 20 levels between you and executive leadership. And by the time a new digital vision makes its way down to you, it's so diffused. It's like looking through fog to try to see, a clear painting or something over here. You just can't see it because the vision is so fragmented and foggy by the time it reaches you. And all of these levels that are being, that are in the scale of hierarchy here are translations, right? So even between the executive leaderships, there can be a lack of understanding of what they actually want. The next level down that it gets passed to, there will be a translation in that, in the minds of one or more individuals who receive that communication, and then just, like subtract clarity and understanding at every single level that it passes by. And you're doing well if it's only 2 levels between you and executives. But even now, right, who is this individual? This is probably a product owner. Please do not hate me, because I'm not talking against product owners, but product owners are very often proxies. And they're proxies because the business people don't want to deal with us. Okay? I mean, when we have that reputation of roll it back, baby. Yeah. Oh, what does Spotify have on next? I mean, whoever here is a proxy is just in the way of clear communication. So you have to find a way to get rid of, see around the product. It doesn't mean like you can't work with a product owner or a product manager, or whoever it may be. And they may actually be a true domain expert in some cases, but you just need the source. You need the source of the vision. Who is carrying the vision forward? Who's responsible for it? Is it someone here, or do they hand it off to someone the next level down? Well, then take the elevator up to see them, or have them take the elevator to see you, and get some clarity. And that's what this represents. This is where lateral communication happens between visionaries, experts, and developers. This is social architecture at its basic workable level. Okay, this is the basic workable level for social architecture. And what about this one? You like that? If you want to work with us, you need 10 years of experience in blah software. Why? Do they want you to develop for them what you developed at the last company? Is that what they call innovation? I mean, that's the wrong assertion. If you have the right mindset that you are driven to understand business architecture, social architecture, and technical architecture with purpose, you could have 10 years in any kind of software development practice and learn what you need to learn in a short time frame. If you're working with the right people who are willing to communicate, dialogue, right? Interpersonal dialogue. Technical architecture. Again, I'm going to guess that most everyone here, if you are not directly working in the big ball of mud, it has some kind of influence on you. Maybe you have to integrate with it. We've all had to do this because this is what the industry primarily is made of. Every time that I receive a request for, Vaughn, we want to know if you are available for consulting, or can you teach a workshop, or can you do both? It's 100% because of this. And the problem with this is, I don't know, some get the idea that I and others who know domain-driven design can walk in and spray some kind of, magic DDD on that, and it's just going to like, wow, look, all these bounded contexts, right? Whew, man, that's amazing, Vaughn. We wish we would have called you a month ago, it would be way behind us now. Nope, doesn't work that way. So this is what, this is actually modernization the way you want it, right? You don't break the money, but let's stack the money nice and neatly, at least, right? So you might think of this as microservices or whatever deployment you're looking for. Okay. In all of this and everything that I've been saying, what about domain-driven design? What about domain-driven design could be of help to us? So, were any of you born yet in 1967? You don't have to answer that, but probably not. I'm just going to guess there may be no one in this room who was alive, well, except for one, who was alive in 1967. A very brilliant man, Mel Conway, had observed in the software industry some behaviors that occurred as software was being developed. I think he may have been working in in software or around systems development maybe since 1959. Okay, and what he noticed is that there was this sort of constraint that teams, organizations, whatever size organization you want to talk about, it could be 2 people, 3 people, it could be 2,000 or 3,000 people or 30,000 or 300,000, right? Depending on the organization that we're discussing. But what an observation that Mel Conway made was that for organizations that design systems in general terms, so it doesn't mean that we're automatically talking about software, could be any kind of system, could be an air conditioning system, could be an automobile, could be a boat, could be, all kinds of systems, could be hardware, a mainframe, maybe back in those days, or if you work at IBM. Organizations that design systems, the systems that they design are constrained to reflect the communication structures of that organization. And the longer that I work in the software industry, the more I see this. And I was, call me a believer, whatever you want to say, I bought into this a long time ago, but the longer I work in the industry, the more I see it. Maybe it's just the frustration that I get when organization, like I tell clients this and they don't react to it. They don't say, well, we got to do something about our communication structures because they're obviously not working, right? When you've got this situation and that's what you've seen over the past 20 years as you've worked in the industry, and it just keeps happening, and you say, well, we'll do the same thing again for the 11th time. I'm pretty sure it'll work out better this time. What is that the definition of? What one word? Right? What is it? Say it. Huh? That's 2 words. No, maybe it's 1. But it's called insanity, right? Insanity is thinking that you can do the same thing over and over again and get different results. That's like calling that's functional programming. Functional programming 101 is you call the same function with the same parameter as many times as you want to. You're going to get the exact same answer, right? You keep doing this, the same things that you did before, even if you aspire only to change the technical architecture of this and say, well, it's probably because Java is such a horrible language. Man, when we did that 20 years ago, Spring was new and this and that, and but now what we're going to rewrite it in Kotlin. That'll do it. Yeah. No. It won't. It'll be just like that, but it'll be Kotlin instead of Java, and maybe a different database. Okay, so when we keep doing that, without giving due attention to to the structures that we're actually operating within, we're not going to accomplish anything new, no new dynamically better results. So after Mel Conway stated this, it's known as Conway's Law. After he stated this, this is in the conclusion of a paper called something like, How Do Committees Invent? I think. How do committees invent? So this was in his conclusion, first paragraph in his conclusion. Right after that, he says, so, therefore, right, no first system design effort is often the best. Okay? How many of you finish like 1.0 or 1.1 on some product that you've been working on and you said, wow, if I could just rewrite this, now I understand it, right? No first system design is often the best. Okay, what do? Do we rewrite it? Or do we change our communication structure? Mel Conway said, and by the way, no offense to ThoughtWorks, but some people at ThoughtWorks said, you know what? We got an idea. What we'll do is we'll create teams that reflect the architecture that we want, and we're going to call that the reverse Conway maneuver. Okay, that's all right. But Mel Conway wrote that very thing in 1967. After he said this, he said, and I like to call this Conway's first axiom. Nod to Mel Conway. Organizations must be flexible and open to reorganize teams, groups, right, that are designing the system. And I just have to say, comma, for the required communication. But let me reread this. This is actually how, right, to get the correct meaning, it is organizations must be flexible and open to reorganizing teams and groups for the required communication so that they're designing the system, right, correctly, the best way. So you are restructuring for dialogue. This is business architecture, social architecture, and when we're working in software, it includes technical architecture. And domain-driven design gives us a natural location for every kind of conversation, every kind of dialogue that is specialized that we need in, specific area of the business. Okay, a business domain is sort of the whole thing or a part of the whole enterprise. But when we use the term domain in domain-driven design, we're mostly talking about a sphere of knowledge, a relatively small area that could be considered an area of expertise. So there's knowledge and activity that goes on in this because we're learning together, we're having dialogue with one another. We have the activity where we're drawing diagrams and we're, writing things down and we're having discussions and we're capturing each other's thoughts and light bulbs are turning on here and there. So this is a sphere of knowledge. It's an area of expertise and it's relatively small. So in domain-driven design, this is known as the bounded context. And a bounded context is a place for a ubiquitous language. Do not misunderstand the word ubiquitous here. Ubiquitous does not mean everywhere in the business. It means everywhere in this context. And I know that's sort of like, well, that sounds kind of strange. Well, I don't know, but that's what it means. So the people who work in this context speak, they learn a ubiquitous language together. It's part of the knowledge process of learning together, gaining knowledge, developing the expertise, experimenting, finding what the questions are, and then finding what the answers to those questions are. because this is generally in a complex area of software, and it's the in this case, the real purpose of using DDD is for what's known as the core domain. So it is a very important area of expertise and sphere of knowledge. One that's going to provide competitive advantage. It's going to distinguish the company from all others. So any of these activities like event storming and context mapping, drawing diagrams on a whiteboard or on an electronic whiteboard, writing wiki documentation, whatever it is that we're doing, we are driving the knowledge that we're gaining into this ubiquitous language and the model that reflects the language. And what we're doing here is also driving out and influencing newer decisions that we make. So it's a constant feedback loop. This is meant for continuous improvement, continuous integration, continuous delivery. And so this can be used for rapid development. Now, what happens to that legacy big ball of mud? Well, the core domain can make use of it. It can make use of multiple legacy systems if it needs to. But this core domain, this bounded context, uses the big ball of mud on its terms. Okay? And that can take some real wrangling, right? That in itself can be complex, but what we're saying is here, we're committed to a clean, ubiquitous language, one that reflects this very specific area of expertise, sphere of knowledge, and therefore we're not going to let this, this information over here that isn't well organized, structured, defined, doesn't behave well. We're not going to allow that to corrupt this. And so we use a context mapping pattern to prevent that. And among other bounded contexts that we have, so in support of the core domain, we probably have some supporting subdomains, other bounded contexts that we don't put the same investment into, but we can still have conversations about specific areas of the business for this. And our generic subdomains are ones that we can usually download or purchase off the shelf. And, it's kind of like those managed services, buy or lease or subscribe to whatever you possibly can to lower the barrier to entry. You don't have to prove to yourself that you can implement software that your organization does not specialize in just because it sounds cool, right? That's a complete waste of time and money. I'm going to skip by that one. Why domain-driven design? Well, here we are again. If you don't use something to drive your communication, your dialogue into specialized areas, you're just going to end up with this over and over and over again. Because, you can easily imagine that there could be 50, 100 people working in here, and they're all just going helter-skelter. I'm dependent, this is dependent on this, and I wasn't dependent on this yesterday, but now I am, and I didn't really understand it, but I made it work, and then I didn't realize, but 3 months later we find out that I broke this, and I'm not even with the company anymore because I hate that working in that area, and over and over and over again. So Conway-aware teams, let's just say Conway-aware teams, are having dialogue. Mel Conway is saying communication structures are important. Notice we have a team of 5 people. It doesn't sound like a very big team, but they can get more done than a team of 500. That's for sure. And this team here is likewise having dialogue. Notice that these thought bubbles are popping up in the heads of people who are listening. One problem with dialogue, with conversation, is that every single one of us we have a different from childhood to adulthood and our current state of, life, we all have completely different experiences. The way that we learned, the way that, just things that we have experienced in life. When someone says a word or a group of words, we get this mental picture or some kind of translation in our head that says, oh, this is what that means. But it actually may not be what the person who spoke meant by this, by what they're saying. So we have to be very careful that our communication results in actual, useful useful outcome. Now, from that big ball of mud, when we start having conversations like this as teams, at a very minimum, we can imagine that there are these explicit models in the big ball of mud, even though they really aren't there. There are no explicit models in this big ball of mud. Or if there are, it's very minimal and haphazardly, locatable. But we can still reason about this by understanding what the subdomains are. So if you consider this whole big ball of mud a domain, as in a problem space domain or a solution space domain, and you need to reuse that in a new bounded context, a new core domain, then it's good to be able to reason about what subdomains exist in here. What are the actual business capabilities that exist in here that we need to use? And this is what is possible from good communication structure. Conway smart teams then gain knowledge, they have aha moments, and this is what drives change. This is what drives change. And we're driving the change notice to modules, right? The module might mean just a module within a monolith, but this is an area of expertise. This is a different area of expertise. We're driving out change, and the language, the communication that we're having is driven into a module. I kind of like to think of it like this. The longer that I work in the industry, I say that, there are two important things in software development. And I described to the classroom, again, sorry I'm repeating this, but I like it. You find out that the wisest software developer in the whole world is at the top of Mount Everest, right? And I don't know how they survive up there, but they do, because they're the wisest software developer in the world. I mean, that software must be helping them somehow. And you struggle, you have to climb up Mount Everest, and at the very, you get there and it's just frightening. You think you're going to die 3 times at least, and you're just clawing your way up at the very end, and you finally reach the summit, and there's the wisest software developer ever. And you say, wisest software developer ever? What is the secret to good software development? And what does that wisest software developer in the world say? Modules and language. That's it. See ya. Go fix that up. Now, you've got to have places where your communication lives. And you don't want to confuse one set of communication for one area of expertise with another one. The words may even sound exactly alike, but they will mean something completely different, or at least slightly different most times. So the best communication structures are driven out through DDD subdomains, which are part of a problem space. So we've got a problem space in which we're working. We have to solve a problem, and the subdomains are realized as bounded contexts in a solution space, and these are each areas of expertise. They're areas where dialogue occurred in a team, and each has its own ubiquitous language. And look, to start out with, you're going to be doing great if you can even get 5 good bounded contexts out there, because the things that most of us face, it's going to be difficult. So don't expect too much results at first. Take some small steps and be successful at it. Be determined that you're going to do this. And even if you end up with one clean core domain, wow, that's a big accomplishment. But now you have something to show to others in your organization. I think I'm running everybody out of time here. Been going about an hour. But let me I'm going to run by this. I was going to talk about impact mapping, but the main message that I want to give here is that, business, social, and technical architecture, 1 + 1 + 1 is infinite, right? We can reach infinite results if we have those 3 areas that we're committed to understanding well. And we don't leave out 2/3 of the most important architecture that there is to understand, and just focus on the technical architecture. If we do, we're leaving out 2/3, right? And 1 does not equal infinity, right? Yeah, these are my books. Gustavo so kindly talked about, and yeah, I just want to say thank you again. Thank you to 𝐈𝐧𝐻𝐼𝐻 for holding the workshop. It's first class here. I'm not going to try to recruit for them, but I can already tell it's a very nice place to work. And if you're looking for work, maybe you'd like to talk to 𝐈𝐻𝐼𝐻. I know some others who have been here before and now working elsewhere, but probably want to look into that. It's a nice culture. Any questions for me? I probably just exhausted you, right? Yep, go ahead.
First of all, thank you so much for showing this perspective on how to build great software. So my question is around, probably, I'm not sure, maybe priorities, or which one should go first when you want to, let's say, build software. Let's say, using this formula for the business, the social, and the technical. How do you fit it together so that it comes out, at the end of the day, you have the software that you want to build on time, within budget, but giving value to business.
So start small. If you go back and try to change, first of all, you're not going to, unless your organization is 5 people, you're not going to probably change the entire organization. You're not going to. And you may in time, once you have some references, like I said, you got some references to work from. You may be able to convince others that, that we need to do this more broadly, but start small and just try to get one subject matter expert, a true expert, not a proxy expert, a true expert in the business to help you. If you are you working in a big ball of mud right now? I don't mean to, because I'm actually asking that to help. Okay, let me just put it this way. If you are working in a big ball of mud, one of the best things you can do first to improve is just, first of all, see if you can move the entities that are probably in a single package or namespace, right? Like maybe 500 different classes or something like that in a single namespace. Just try to cluster those into modules that refer to the subdomains that exist. And those are closely related to the business capabilities, right? Just rewinding here. You can imagine going from this to, oh, there are these 5 major areas, business capabilities in the big ball of mud. Let's move all the classes that are blown out all over the place here. Let's move those entities, just first of all, the entities, into those modules. Don't try to remove the cross-module dependencies. Like, okay, this class here is dependent on this class over here, and this one gets moved into here, and this one gets moved over here, and there's still a dependency, like an import or a using or a, right, whatever kind of thing. Don't try to fix those yet. Just move those entities into a very well named module that represents the subdomain. Okay. Now, if you want to know where the dependencies are, it's really easy to find now, right? What do? You look at the top of the file. What am I dependent on? If it's anything that's not in my module name, my package or namespace or module, depending on the language that you're working in, that's something that we would like to fix, but let's not worry about that right now. At least we have the ability to have conversations about that one subdomain, that one, business capability, if you will, maybe business capability. That's going to help tremendously. The next step that you take is go into each one of those entities, and you're going to see probably something like 20 to 50, maybe even more attributes or properties, if you will, in those entities. And a lot of those are related to one another, but it's unclear that they are. Find out which ones are related to the others and put those related attributes into different value object types. Now you reduce 20 attributes or properties to 4, right? Or if it's 50, you reduce them to 7. And now you can go, oh man, this is actually understandable. Can you believe it? Right? That's just like 2 relatively, maybe the first one's going to be, harder than the second. But imagine what you can do now, because you can just think about this. You can think about this subdomain. You can think about these entities that are in that subdomain. And you can even see where the cross-module dependencies are, which you don't want, but those are going to be more challenging to refactor, redesign, and get those dependencies out of there and make those dependencies like eventually consistent. So instead of updating multiple entities at one time, you're going to update one entity at a time, and any entities in other modules that are dependent on that, you're going to use, let's say, like a domain event to cause the eventual update of those others. That's not simple, and it's the way, let's say, it would have been best to build it in the first place, but those first 2 steps are just going to take you a long way. So I'm sorry, I don't mean to embarrass anyone. I'm just trying to be helpful. So I ask questions, but think about what you can accomplish with those 2 steps. Then, as you have to make changes, and you're not going to be able to ask the business for 2 months to do what I just said. You're probably going to have to make those changes as you make business-driven changes, right? Bug fixes, new features, whatever. You're probably going to have to make those little adjustments as possible, and then keep adding in. And when you have an extra 10 minutes, move another class into the module, and you know, and that's going to have enough ripple. Like if you're using OR mapping, you're going to have to change the OR map definition, or if you're using, maybe it'll be easier if you're using, what do you call it? Attributes or proper, or annotations, you know, maybe that'll make it a little bit easier, but that's going to take you a long way. Okay. Any other questions?
Hello, thanks for the presentation. I had a question about the social architecture diagram where you outlined the two models. Going back to the example of the digital banking, and I believe that the domain of banking is quite hierarchical. How could you transform from the first model to the other, to the flatter model, if that's at all possible in this kind of domain?
So like this. So current account is kind of a standard, like, you know, if I have a personal bank account, the bank very often refers to that as current account. Sometimes it's called deposits, depending on the bank that you're in. Well, I had a bit of information in here on Bion. Have you heard of Bion? Where are you? You've heard of Bion? Okay, Bion is not a silver bullet, but it does give you sort of 320 plus different service domains, which are probably, a lot of them are probably roughly bounded contexts. There may be multiple bounded contexts associated with each service domain, but that's for you to figure out. But I would look at Bion, and most of the information that they have is public. It's in, you know, I don't know if it's, I think it's like you. So we're a technology partner of Bion, so we have access to some internal things, but I can tell you that most of the really good stuff you can see from the outside. Are you working at a bank?
No,
Okay.
not now.
Not now.
I was, and not now.
Okay. I mean, that's a good place to start. It doesn't mean that, what is it? Why is that? Well, it's a good place to start to understand, right? Like, yeah, so one of the goals of Bion is to, if you want to service enable your bank, right? If you want it to make a sort of I hate to say service-oriented architecture, but if you know, if you think about it in terms of that, where each service domain is a separate service, if you created a current account facade context, right, or service domain, now you can perform the standard operations that are part of current account by, you know, integrating with your back end. That's probably COBOL in a lot of cases, but maybe you have, what is it? PL1. Well, that's actually better. Man, PL1, PLM or PL1? Yeah, PL1, yeah. And that's an IBM language, right? Yeah, I'm thinking, I got excited when I heard PL1 because I was thinking PLM, which was a C-like language that Intel developed a long time ago for the 8086 processor. But yeah, PL1 is less horrible than COBOL, right? I would say. But yeah, I mean, that's one goal. Are you going to be able to go and like implement 50 service domains next month? No. But once you understand what's necessary, what if you were able to start strangling the areas that you did, like, you know, current account, we did get current account, you know, that front end service working, and now we can press all the buttons that we need on the legacy to make it work, Now we understand what we actually can strangle out of the legacy, potentially.
Sometimes we make a wrapper, microservice wrapper to access the data.
But that's what I'm talking about. This, you know, the facade or wrapper. Anyway, it's a place to look to understand what are the flat things, right? I'm sorry, I'm trying to address you now. So how do I flatten a bank? Well, you have 320 plus examples of flattened service domains. And they cover probably most everything that even beyond what a standard bank would have. It's sort of like a superset of many banks, right? All brought together. So other questions? Yep.
Thank you for your talk. Yeah. So you mentioned Conway's Law, and I know because I've read your books that you give great importance to language. So the thing is, by using words such as law in Conway's Law, aren't we fooling ourselves as software engineers, thinking there are actual laws that drive our experimentation path? Is law the proper word for Conway's Law? I mean, I love that would be, but I think that
You would have to ask
cry
Fred
for
Brooks, and he died. Rip. You know, like I don't mean that with any disrespect at all. He died. He is the one who called it Conway's Law. He wrote a book, Mythical Man Month. I think it was in the year 1972. He's the one who saw Mel Conway's paper and read it, and he saw the conclusion. He's like, whoa, this is awesome. And he gets in touch. I don't know if he knew him right? I don't know. I mean, in 1972, maybe Conway's Law was the right term. But I don't know. Like, do we have to change it to make it useful? Like, then don't call it Conway's Law. Just read it and apply it, right?
Okay.
Call it Conway's 0th axiom and Conway's first axiom. How's that?
I love first axiom.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. That's none of my business, and I'm not gonna disrespect the past like that. So, any others?
Thank you for the talk. What would be your advice to be more successful in the 3 type of architectures in a company that it's mostly remote, especially in the social architecture? Thank you.
Yeah, it's challenging, but you still have to do it. And I think use a lot of communication can be accomplished using like a virtual whiteboard. Try some event storming. I wanted to introduce this idea of, I don't know if you've heard of impact mapping. And I'm really only showing part of impact mapping here, but the idea behind impact mapping is that, you know, user stories and deliverables, features, functionality are generally driven by user stories first, right? And then we deliver something for a user story. And impact mapping turns that on its ear. And it says, look, don't talk to me about stories yet until we know why. Why are we doing this? So, you know, the business goal is what we want to reach. We need to change the behavior of some people or group of people, some person or group of people, or a user role or something like that. And in order to change their behavior, we need to make an impact on them so that we change their behavior to reach the goal. Now, when you know what some of your impacts are that you're going to attempt, then you can talk about the deliverables that you're going to need to make those impacts, and then you can talk about user stories. Now, it doesn't mean that you can never talk about a user story before the deliverable, but the point is, like, why are we doing this? Right? What does the business actually need? And that is what this is about. So this involves social architecture, right? This is business and social architecture first. And event storming tends to be business and social architecture first. Because you're not really, even though you're using events, the events aren't, we're not talking about software at that point, really. We're just talking about conceptually, what are the steps in this process? And you're really able to get a lot of good conversations out of the team or teams that are working on this. So you can bring several people together on a virtual whiteboard and do event storming that way. I have a remote workshop that I teach that includes using a virtual whiteboard for event storming. I have like a 1 day, I think a 1 or 2 day workshop that I teach just mainly how to use event storming and tools like this to leverage those for business and social architecture. But I don't know, you don't have to attend my workshop to learn about this. But that's what I would do. You just got to get people talking, and don't correct the business people. Don't make them feel stupid, right? You want to like break your partnership before it gets started. Just correct them like 3 times in 1 minute, and tell them that that's not a good name for a domain event. You know, what? Oh, the orange one? Is that what you mean? Right? Just make it the orange thing. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to say the orange things. That tells us what happened. Like something happened, and we're going to put that on orange things. And if you just start out with orange and purple policies, you're going to get a long way just from that. Maybe a few bright yellows for user roles just to show, right? Get people talking, make it simple, make it fun. Give awards, right? Give awards to the the business people that even, I mean, just if it's stupid, you know, like some silly reward. I don't mean stupid like making fun of them. I just mean like it's silly, but it's fun, right? You just say best business sponsor since, you know, somebody, Rafa Nadal. I don't know, right? Just make it fun. Any others?
I'd like to double click on that. You're kind of going into the dynamics of how to make the people part work. And I'm very curious in your experience, what environment, what is the impact of the environment? What qualities do teams have that successfully make the leap from the big ball of mud?
They're open and they want to learn. And I think that's mostly it. They're open and they want to learn, and they're willing to rethink things. They're not too tied to what is done today, and that's especially an easier problem to solve when you're working in a new core domain, right? This is something that they haven't done before, so there's no strong link to something that already exists. That's part of it. Any other, I mean, I don't know, give me a hint, maybe what you're thinking, maybe some doubts that you have about it.
Essentially, I'm thinking that you've probably seen way more teams struggle with this. Like the theory is beautiful, but execution is always, you struggle. So yeah, you have to get the business people involved. So you gave us the hint, make it fun.
Most of my experience in the difficult parts is not working with the actual knowledge workers, the experts, and people who want to learn and grow. It's the business sponsor who owns the budget, and they just they're having meetings at other levels, and they just, I guess that means we're out of here. I don't know. They're yeah, so sometimes it'll get squashed by those folks. I can't even explain why, but that's usually the difficult part. It's usually like the vice president, senior vice president kind of people who, on the other hand, I've worked with CIOs who are very open to doing this, and they support it. So, but yeah, you asked me for what are the challenges. That's what I see. There are also some people, technical people, who have an agenda, and they want to be in control in some area. Like they want to win at something, and so they're going to fight against it. I've actually had people like that who have an agenda, who claim that they've known DDD for longer than DDD existed, and that they've been doing it in this company for longer than DDD existed, and actually in reality they don't have a clue about DDD. They couldn't even explain like the basics of domain-driven design, but they'll do that just to get by with their agenda. I mean, you can always find people that are going to try to torpedo the effort, but that's like, okay, what can you do about those people? I don't know. It's usually not my problem to deal with. And I'm sorry, but that's just true, right? I just communicate, this is what I think, this is what I think they're hurting things, and sometimes nobody can do anything about it.
Thank you.
But the thing is, try to keep it small. Like I said before, just try to keep it small. If you walk in, first of all, don't even call it DDD. Okay? That's my first advice. You give it a name like that, someone's going to hate it. Don't call it DDD. You want to improve communication in your organization, because communication structures have a direct effect on the resulting software design, and you want to help improve software design. So we would like, and you don't even have to say we would like, you just start asking people questions. You just start approaching them, and keep it small. Keep it on the down low, as we say in the US. You just don't want to attract a lot of attention. Then, like I said before, after you've got some wins behind you, maybe even after a few years, and someone starts saying, so what is it that you're doing after all? Maybe it might be safe to tell a few people this as well. If you looked into DDD, this is what they do. It's not exactly what we're doing, but it's something like it, like that. Just, I'm serious. You just give someone another DD thing to shoot at, TDD, BDD, DDD, some other DDs. They're just going to shoot at it. Another silver bullet, right? Shiny, bright, shiny things. Just keep it small. Kevin, how did you do it at ThoughtWorks? Kept it small?
Yeah, so we have like things.
Kevin.
I mean, I actually have a loud voice, but that's going to be better. Okay. So what we were doing was like trying to have vertical slices. So the thing is that you cannot change everything. So at least change what is important for you. And from experience, one of my advices will be, what is the most painful thing that you are doing every day, and try to attack this first. I mean, motivation is also important when you're working on something. I mean, if you are doing something that people feel is not important, or that you are trying to fix something that is actually you are doing only once a week, it doesn't matter, right? So try to fix whatever is important for you, for your team, and maybe it's not even the most important thing for your business. But if you can get a rock out of the, of the path, you can speed up other things also. So don't try to fix everything. Isolate problems. You have bounded context. You can have them on your mind. You don't need to have them on code yet, and try to start isolating and understanding your problem. And you are going to get it wrong the first time, and probably for a few months, and maybe even a year, depending on the complexity of the business. But you are starting to get it less wrong every time. And because you are defining boundaries that you can change, it's going to be easier to get to the right path at some point. And that's what we did a few years ago in the project that we worked together. It was remote completely because it was during the pandemic. And we started with a team of 5 people. We were around 20 at the end of the pandemic. So it grew. We removed the legacy software. We improved. We started implementing some microservices doing DDD. And it went pretty well at the end. We managed to rebuild the entire system and improve it at some point with the help, of course, of everyone at 𝐸𝐻 at that point, because they are amazing people at the end. But it's hard, but it's actually kind of fun when you get to it. And that's it. Thank you so much.
Oh, okay.
I mean, who wants to make a question? Ike. I didn't see you.
Yeah, so I guess just to reiterate, keep it simple. Take steps like this.
First of all, thank you. Really insightful, really nice conversation. My question is, how do we find a good balance between over-engineering solutions, but at the same time design in ways that it can be easily extended, right? Like it's similar to the banking topic, right? At some point, those areas, they had to be adapted. They have to be updated. Like your picture, it's constantly changing, right? Even if you run event storming, you define domain boundaries and so on, they're in constant change. How to balance between over-engineering solutions, right? Not build everything that is open for extension and whatnot, but also, and being pragmatic, but also take into consideration the constant change of business.
So I think maybe you sort of answered your own question, like how do you not over-engineer? Well, you just don't over-engineer. I mean, I sort of get an idea when I'm spending too long on something. If I may, I don't know, this isn't a very nice expression, but there was, I was working with one team, very experienced developer, and he goes, you're polishing the turd again, huh? Okay, like what happens when you do that, right? Just think about what happens. It doesn't get any better. So there's a point where you're just going to have to stop. And you know what? I like this. I think this fits. This I have. Where is it? Oh. It's from the workshop. I think most people around here know Dave Farley and Jeff Patton. Dave Farley says, on engineering discipline, assume you're wrong and then find your way to better and possibly even correct. Like, over-engineering is already saying, but you can find a way to make it perfect. And here's one of the better software engineers on the planet, and they're admitting, you know, I like to say there's good and then there's better, right? But trying to get to that sort of perfect point is just not, it's just not going to happen. And then Jeff Patton says, this is actually on his Twitter, what do you call it, profile. I like making great products or even pretty good ones. Right? Doesn't that just say it all? I mean, that's the attitude we need to have.
Yep.
Just assume you're wrong and then try to find your way to better and maybe even correct.
Yeah, and the thing is that we're constantly doing trade-offs, right? Like even if we suppose that you have already a big ball of mud, for instance, you run an event storming, you identify domain, bounded context and whatnot, and you have to start first from somewhere, right?
Yeah,
So
if you have a big ball of mud, are you trying to improve the big ball of mud? I wouldn't start with event storming if I would do that. I would start with having conversations about, so what are the business capabilities that this implements, that this system implements? Oh, and what kinds of concepts are within that business capability? Like if I were to list 20 concepts, could you tell me roughly which business capabilities that addresses? I mean, that kind of archaeological dig is going to be difficult enough. I don't think that event storming is going to help you get here, right? Maybe it will, but I think probably won't. Now, if you need to change something, or if you're working on a new core domain and you need to know what the core domain does and how it integrates with the big ball of mud, then you probably will, you should benefit from event storming then. Do we need to wrap it up?
I guess probably there are more questions.
My feet are getting tired. I've been standing all day.
Yes, I guess also you need to rest, and everyone here perhaps need to rest or to take a snack or eat something, and we can do that in the canteen, and we can keep chatting there if you want.
Does the microphone work in the canteen? Because I wanted Kevin to talk about what he's doing at MongoDB, because I think it's very interesting. But I don't know if that's is that
of course
now? Like if the microphone worked in there, then he could just talk. I could eat the pizza that he was going to eat.
No, you can do it. You can do it here, Kevin. But how long it will take? I will provide something. Come over here. Come over here. 5 minutes.
I only need one because I don't. Hi. Okay. So well, that's the extra, right? So for who doesn't know me, my name is Kevin. I'm a software developer. I've been working for 12 years in the industry already.
Speak in Spanish. Everybody's got.
I don't know if everyone speaks Spanish over here. It's okay. I mean, it's okay. I'm just doing English. So now I'm working at MongoDB, as he mentioned, but I'm not going to talk about MongoDB because they are not paying me for coming here to talk. So we are going to talk about another database that also web scales. So the thing is, let's talk about DDD and how software can be improved just by doing DDD, by talking with the people that is important. Now I'm working at the developer tools team. So if you're working with MongoSH, Compass, or the Visual Studio Code extension for MongoDB, sadly, you have some of my code working on your computer. I apologize. But before that, I was working as a consulting engineer. That means that you are going to some client office. They say that they want to use that database, and you need to help them because you are the expert. That sounds fun, but it's not. So let me share a quick story with you. I was working with a client They are a banking. I cannot see the name because, you know, NDAs and these kind of things, but it's a bank, an European bank. And they had their customer success platform in Oracle DB. So the thing is that Oracle DB is a pretty amazing database for everything. That's what they're going to say. But sometimes people have problems with them and they migrate to other software, to other databases. So they came to me and they said, look, Oracle is too expensive. I need to make something, I need to make this platform faster, cheaper, and it needs to be maintained by 2 or 3 people. Now, they were a team of 5, so they were like just reducing costs. So we had to redesign the whole thing. And they came to me, you are that database expert, just do your thing. You do your magic, the sprinkles, right? The DDD sprinkles. So the first thing that I did was, okay, who knows what the application does? Because you are the DBA. You only know how to create indexes. So I need someone that actually knows what it does. So what we did a few workshops. These workshops were 1 hour Zoom call for 2 or 3 days. We started gathering some use cases, like what is the people doing with the application, and also some technical requirements. One of the technical requirements was that the Oracle database was around 5 terabytes of data, and they needed to reduce costs. Just to give you an example, 5 terabytes of data can cost more than 10,000 euros per month, so it's pretty expensive. So we gathered some requirements, we talked to each other, we had some funny conversations, and then we decided to do just an experiment. How can we reduce costs, implement the same functionality just with the new database? The model was actually pretty complex in Oracle. We had like more than 30 tables in 2 databases and 2 schemas. They had incidents for the customers. They have all the tracking information of the customer. They have the amounts, all the accounts information, everything in Oracle in different tables. Getting all the information for the customer success when they receive a call was taking more than 2 minutes. Just imagine that you are the folk receiving a call, someone complaining, and you are waiting there, the system is loading for 2 minutes. I mean, we were killing people at that point. I mean, the stress. So we had to reduce it to a few seconds, at least. So what we did was a redesign of the entire data model. So they needed a way to get everything that happened during a time frame, like the last week, on the account, so the folk on the phone could give you an answer of what happened. Hey, someone told me that they did a transfer. I don't have the money yet. What happened? So what we did was apply a pattern that is called the polymorphic document. That is actually an aggregate root in DDD, where you can have in, let's say, a table, because we are not talking about that database. I'm actually talking about another one, where you have different shapes of rows. We also use some tools like time series collections, tables, and other specific configurations. And we manage, after a few weeks of work, it's not like a full project of months. It was 2 weeks of work. We managed to get the 2 main functionalities working, and we reduced the database an 80% of the size, from 5 terabytes to around 600 gigabytes. Avoiding data duplication. We also improved the performance by avoiding joins and lookups and so on, just by having a few collections. We improved the data loading time from around 2 minutes to less than a second. 2 seconds to less than a second. 2 minutes to less than a second. And that's it. And it's not that there's some database that does some magic, because there's no silver bullet. Even if you work for one, there's no silver bullet, and you know it. You have a Slack channel called competition where you say, okay, Oracle is better at that, or whatever database is better than ourselves. But it's about talking with the people that is using the software, that most of the times they are the experts because they are suffering how to use the software. You need to dog fooding yourself. You need to suffer what it's happening. You need to get empathy of what's happening with people using your software. And you need to take into consideration also that the technical part of your software is also business. You are taking business decisions. You have to choose a technology that is versatile enough so your technical decisions are not affecting the business, but it happens. I mean, if you use Kafka or whatever, you have some limitations and you have some cost. You need to pay some bills and you need to pay someone that actually manages the Kafka. It's Confluent or Amazon or whoever wants to manage the Kafka for you. So just sit everyone on the same table, Zoom call, Meets, hope it's not a Skype. Just do whatever, talk to them, gather some requirements. You don't need user stories. At the beginning, you don't even need an event storming. What we had was a Google Docs with 5 sentences and just requirements. And it was a conversation, just a meeting log, that's it. Because you distill the domain from there. There's an amazing book from a guy here on the left side that's called Distilling Domain-Driven Design, Domain-Driven Design Distill. And distill is actually a pretty good word because it's not like you are building something, you are getting it from the existing knowledge, right? So just gather the knowledge how you can. It can be a meeting log, it can be ADRs. If you need to do an event storming, just do an event storming, but the goal is not designing software at that point, it's understanding when you need to solve. After that, when you know what you need to solve, just build it. And as Dave Farley said, try to build something that is wrong, but wrong in a way that you can improve it later. Because the first thing is going to be expensive, is going to be pretty wrong, and you will need to change it after a few months, and you don't want to hate yourself. So just try to do something simple. And that's it. If you have any question later about anything, I will be here around for an hour or so. We will having probably a beer or a drink or whatever. Just come to me. I speak Spanish, Catalan, and English, and I do understand a little bit of Portuguese, but try to speak slower. And that's it. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I have nothing else to say. So if you want to go to the canteen, it is in the same in this same floor, and right and at the end of the hallway, you will find it, and there you have pizza, drinks, whatever you want, and there we can keep talking and learning about all of these things. So thank you very much for coming.